Howdy. Welcome back to Dion Talk. Welcome back to Financial Freedom for the Lazy Person. The question is, are you lazy enough to want to make work optional? Recently, I did a video on the 20 questions that will keep you working, that are stopping you from retiring early. Today, we're going to flip the script. What are 10 questions that will actually move you towards financial freedom, towards the ability to make work optional? You don't have to be like me. You don't have to be super lazy and travel the world and do live streams just before you go to bed after being up all night. You can keep working, but life is a lot better when you have options. Today, I'm going to cover 10 questions that I want you to ask yourself. These are not 10 questions you take to your mentor and say, hey, give me a thought. These are actually things I want you to figure out for yourself. And at the end of these 10 questions, the rest of this video will be dedicated to asking the questions that you get in the chat. There will be, hang on just a second. There will be a members only call after this. So at 6 p.m. Pacific, if you remember, we will learn the skill of analyzing a deal. But let's jump right into the 10 questions that will actually move the meter on your financial journey. Not the ones based on fear that keep you broke, but make you feel comfortable for doing nothing, or sometimes doing the wrong things. Question number 1. How can I increase my income in the next 90 days? So many people make a basis of when I get the promotion, when I change companies, when the marriage happens, when the divorce finalizes, whatever the thing is that's going to change your financial status, instead of setting a short-term goal. What can you do in 90 days that will increase your income? Is it coordinating a way to get overtime? Is it getting a certificate that makes you more attractive to your employer or makes you change companies? Is it starting and growing a side hustle? But in 90 days, what can you do that would increase your income? So many people focus on only saving because they think if I'm not spending, I'm saving more, but you can only save 100%. Like in the most extreme conditions, you can only save 100%. But there is no limit to what you can do to increase your income. And there's a lot more creative ways to do it than the few that I mentioned here. But if you had 3 months, what could you accomplish to make more money? The second one, when it comes to saving instead of earning, it's what can I cut or change without hating my life? Right? We talk about the things that we can eliminate from our life. But if you make your life suck so much from what you're willing to sacrifice, you might not follow through to the parts where you don't have to sacrifice anymore. That can be, what subscriptions can you live without? Can you have a home gym instead of a gym? Because there's people at the gym. And have you met people? What can you do with your vehicles, but still not hate your life? Like I was comfortable driving old Jeeps, right? An old Jeep Cherokee, an old Jeep Wrangler. That was fine. But if your vehicle won't get you to work, that's not a life you're going to want to live. How can you adjust your insurance to where you're still comfortable with life, but you have the policy you need? Anything that you're spending money on. And I would cover housing, but that's actually question number 3. So when you go through your list of what you're willing to cut or change in your life, what are you willing to change without hating your life? Like there has to be a balance there, because I've seen a lot of people find financial freedom, the financial freedom retire early community, and jump in head first and like, oh, I can do this. I can eliminate all these things. I can stop taking vacations. I can ride a bike to work. I can do all these things. The brightest comet burns out fastest. Find a balance of things that you're actually willing to do long term, because this is a 5 to 10 year journey, closer to 10 for most people. And if you make it suck so much, you might not make it past 6 months. Question number 3, and this is the one that I get the most resistance from almost everybody that I talk with. What can you do about your largest expense, housing? Is it you compromised and you bought a $1.3 million house with a white picket fence so your spouse would be happy? Is that why you're going to work an extra 3 decades? Most of us move out of our house with our parents. So option number one is, can you live with your parents longer? Option number two is we move out of our parents and we move into a place and we think, I'm just starting out. I can't afford a place on my own, so I'm going to have roommates. We're willing to have people help us pay someone else's mortgage when we're renting. But then a lot of people buy a place and all of a sudden something snaps in their brain and they're like, well, I was fine with you helping me pay their mortgage, but don't anybody dare help me pay mine. So roommates are an option, but as you age and you get with somebody else and you have kids, maybe it's not the best option. Are you willing to buy a duplex or a house with an ADU instead of a house? Millions of families grow up in apartments, right? Are you just better than them? Or is it that you're not willing to sacrifice because you don't want to step back in life? I moved from my house into an apartment and rented my house out for 2 years to get rental income on my tax returns so that my debt to income ratio wouldn't be a barrier. From there, I purchased a duplex and lived in one side and rented out the other. Didn't have roommates with my kids. Didn't house hack with shared living space. But I was able to find a way to get on the property ladder by adjusting my biggest expense. And I actually have a video coming out later this week on the most important aspect of house hacking that hardly anybody talks about. Question number 4. Let me know if you know this or if you think you know this because you have a feeling. But what is your actual freedom number? Ask yourself, what is my actual freedom number? Most people think I need 5,000 a month or 10,000 a month. And if you don't know that out of the last 6 months, on average, I spent $3,245 to exist every month, then you don't know your freedom number. It's not a round number. It's not a guesstimate. That's what we say when we share it with someone else so we don't sound neurotic. But when you're talking to yourself in the quiet circle of the spinning thoughts that are your head, you just say, what am I actually spending? You have the data. Have you actually sat down? Spreadsheet, pen and paper, back of the napkin, doesn't matter. What are you actually spending every month? Look at your debit card receipts. Look at your credit receipts. Write down like the food apps where you track everything you're eating every day. Write down what did you actually spend money on every day to live the life that you currently are. That's that's your freedom number to live that lifestyle. Yes, you'll have to do some adjustments with when you quit work, a lot of expenses go down, a couple go up. You don't have the commute. You're not saving for retirement anymore. You're going to get taxed a lot less because active income is taxed the worst over the passive income options. Healthcare premium, you're going to cover 100% of that now instead of your employer covering all of it or part of it. Like you can do that math, but have you looked at the actual months in the last 6 months? What have you spent money on? Because most of us know our recurring things, your uh, Netflix subscription, your gym membership, and everything. But Amazon Prime hits once a year. If you own your home and you're paying your taxes, and if you're smart, you don't have your mortgage pay your taxes, right? Or not your taxes, your insurance, your homeowner's insurance. Don't escrow that. Pay it with a credit card. They don't charge anything extra, and you get the cash back or the points if you do the creative strategies with that. But that doesn't hit every month. Sometimes that hits once a year. You have expenses that will hit sometimes during the year. Make sure that's factored in. And what I do is I balance it out. I've got a couple of paid off properties where I'm paying the taxes. Normally I escrow that because there's no benefit. They won't let me pay that with credit card. But that comes out in April and October. Now my brother does it where he just pays it in those 2 months and figures in those months I don't make any money. But me, I balance it out throughout the year to where every month that's included in my expenses. What expenses do you have that you might not think of that are going to come up if you stopped earning income that you have to be ready for? Real math. How much does your life cost? If you don't know your number, you don't have a goal, you have a wish. Question number 5. If you've read a book on a subject, you tend to know more than 95% of anybody who thinks they know a subject. The people who go to the gym and they work out and they know how their body feels and they've worked out for years, but they've never read a book, on what's actually happening to their body when they work out have a barrier in front of them to somebody who educates themselves and then goes and works out or gets a trainer. In real estate, there are a ton of people, and I'll pick on my brother because we pick on each other all the time, who doesn't know, I'd say 80% of the terms that we use in real estate investing. Now, he retired with 10 paid off rentals. He didn't need to know these. But imagine how much easier and faster his journey could have been if he understood things like the tax system, like how leverage works, or how to outsource things instead of doing everything himself, to where it took him 30 years instead of 10 because he had to be the guy putting the roof on. He had a place empty for 5 years because he was running his business. And it is absolutely not worth paying somebody else to get your place ready when you could do it yourself 5 years from now. Like I said, I was going to pick on him. But had he educated himself, and then I'll pick on myself, my first year of owning a rental, I didn't educate myself. I didn't read a book. I didn't do any of the things to educate myself. No YouTube, no podcasts. I lost 6 grand the first year. And it was such a bad experience, I tried to quit. And luckily, I was underwater. I owed more on my house than I uh, could sell it for or even give it away for. And I was stuck, and I decided to educate myself. So when it comes to this question, I want you to think you have to educate yourself on your market, but you have to pick the market. The question is, question number 5, what market can I understand better than 90% of the people, of everyone else, within 6 months? You're not going to understand it better than the person who's been investing there for 15 years, that has the permit office in their pocket, that has all of the contractors lined up, that has a list of people calling and asking, I have friends that need a place to rent. Do you have a place available? They're going to have a leg up on you. I'm not saying you're going to know it better than them, but you're going to know it better than everyone else, 90% of the people. If you're studying a market, what do you know about the population, right? Is it growing or shrinking? And if so, why? And what amount would you be concerned with? What are the rents in an area? Rentometer is a snapshot. I've seen it be off up to 30%. What Section 8 pays in some markets is much less than what you can actually get. And in some markets, it's more than what you can actually get. But if you don't know that, you're just guessing. Not only how much does insurance cost for different types of properties in your market, but what aspects of insurance matter in your market? Are you in an earthquake heavy zone? Are you in a flood zone in Florida? Hurricane path in Texas? Why do they call it Hurricane Alley? And they keep building houses there. I'm not sure why. What aspects of insurance matter in your market, and what are actual quotes in your market? What's happening currently? Not the quotes you got 3 years ago when you started looking or bought a place, but what are they doing today? What is the tenant base where you were investing? I was talking with somebody recently, and the tenant base is what's making them consider quitting real estate. If you don't like the type of tenant you attract with your rentals, maybe you need to shift markets just because of the people that are there. I diversify because I'm close to a military base. I have 1/3 military, 1/3 Section 8, 1/3 working or retired. I wouldn't want 100% of any of 3 of those. So that diversification gives me stability, not because I have a preference of one of those types of tenants or the other, but the funding source for each of those tenants is different, to where I want to understand if that's an option. What are the local aspects of your market that you can know more than anybody else? I live in Washington. Do you know how many landlords I've talked to that have no clue that I can get more rent for my houses with a carport than I can get for my houses with a garage? It's a tenant preferred aspect. Maybe, I don't know this, but maybe if you're in Arizona, a pool is more attractive to your tenants, or a specific type of air conditioning that we don't even have to provide in Washington, right? You have to know your local market. If you're in Siberia, where the lumberjack landlord invests, the type of heating you can provide to your tenants actually matters when you're finding a place. That can drastically increase the cost that you're going to have once you close on it. Study your market, educate yourself about your market so that you know more than most people. There will be people who know less than you that are more successful than you if you don't take action with the knowledge once you have it. Question number 6. The best way to phrase it is, what criteria will you refuse to violate? The way I say it is, what are my no's? What are my absolutely nots? Like, I don't want to own in a good school district, but that's not a disqualifier. I just don't hunt for them. I want my leases to end in the winter, but if somebody has a lease that goes from summer to summer, that doesn't mean I'm not going to buy that deal. I want side by side units, but I bought an over and under. I have wants, but what are your needs? What are I will not buy something that is in an HOA. I have my nose with my agents. I don't want anything that's a short sale or a foreclosure because when we had 2011 to 2015, and there were millions of foreclosures and short sales, and they were REO'd, and the banks were trying to get them off their books, you can close that in a couple of months. Now, a short sale or a foreclosure deal can tie your money up for over a year. So I'm not even looking at those. I want to be able to make a purchase when I find the deal without dealing with those. So I know what my no's are. Do you know what yours are? If somebody sat down across the table from you right now, not friends and family, somebody who actually invests and understands the language and you don't need an interpreter for, and said, what will you not buy? I will not buy within 3 blocks of McKinley Avenue in Tacoma. I will not buy within a quarter mile of 301 T Street in Tumwater. I know my areas I will avoid. I know my HOAs I will avoid. I know in Florida, if it was in a flood zone and the level of the foundation was so low that I was going to need a certain type of flood insurance, that might be my no there if that was my market. But you need to know your market. In your market, what are your no's? It's almost as important as the questions that people have that are a little more vague, like what is your cash flow minimum? I don't really have a cash flow minimum because I'm in such an expensive market. I have a yield minimum. What is your debt coverage? What are you willing, how much debt are you willing to take on? In growth mode, I wanted 70% loan to value. So I had the ability to lose an asset without having to write a check if I needed to, or I could handle rents dropping if they did. Are your no's how much work needs to be done? I don't want to do burrs. I don't want to do rehabs. I invested for over 10 years without doing a rehab on any of my properties. I helped other people do theirs, but I didn't want to do any on mine. I bought rent ready or already occupied properties until I retired. Question number 7. What skill, if mastered, would change the game for me? Ask yourself that. What skill are you either lacking or you know you're not good enough at that you need to master? Is it analyzing a deal like we're going to in the members only call at 6 p.m. Pacific tonight, wherever you are, because it's 7 something in the morning where I'm at? Is it tenant screening? Do you find yourself owning a couple of units and your problems always are your tenants because you aren't screening right? Can you master that ability? Do you need to master property management, all the aspects of that? Scheduling maintenance and repairs and dealing with tenants, dealing with local city laws, whatever property management is, are you lacking in that? That was one of my biggest problems when I started. I didn't have a tenant screening process. I had no lease in place. I didn't know any handyman. Just thought I was going to do it all myself and had zero skills and zero time. Do you need to master the art of negotiation? Because when I say negotiation, most people's minds jump to you make an offer on a property, you find out flaws in the property, you try to convince the owner that they should either lower the price or fix those flaws because you're negotiating. Well, negotiating is the contractor that comes to give you the estimate on the repair. The permit office is a negotiation. Like everything that you're going to deal with, your tenants, the binder strategy to have your tenants set the rents, everything you're going to do is a negotiation. Have you tried to master that? And some people say, well, I'm really not good at that. I don't like conflict. So I'm going to get a property manager. Well, you're going to miss all the other things you need to negotiate, like with your property manager. It's a skill you can develop. Don't fall into that trap of somebody told you in 6th grade you weren't good at math. So the rest of your life, you just pretend you can't do math. You can educate yourself on it. If you have a skill, like if you're not good at communication, study some NLP, educate yourself. A friend of mine, she joined Toastmasters to become better at public speaking. Terrified her. She didn't even have a job where she does public speaking, but at her job, she had to present to her departments, and it helped with that. Wealth compounds faster when your competence compounds first. Question number 8 that you should ask yourself. How can I design my first or next deal to survive my worst mistake? You don't know how bad the mistakes you're going to make are, right? So how can you start investing to mitigate those risks? Because in the beginning, you're the biggest risk. It's not the market. It's not a real estate crash. Real estate can crash 50% the year after you buy a property, and that can be in your favor. So many, and I'm going to use strong words, idiots, morons, whatever, crash bro followers will say, oh, I'm going to wait for the crash to buy. If you're not buying in an up market, like we've had for the last 12 years, you're not going to buy in a down market. You're going to fall into, oh, don't catch a falling knife and a double dip crash. I'm not going to buy now. Lenders are going to disappear. But if you bought a property and then a catastrophic event happens where a whole bunch of people lose their house and a whole bunch of houses go for sale and housing prices drops because that's what it takes, forced sellers, millions of people will become tenants. They'll have to rent. People who go through foreclosures don't always become homeless. They go rent somewhere else. Well, if you own an asset that you bought now before the crash, and all of these people become renters in 2009, 10, and 11, right after the 2008 housing crash, in Class C properties, rents went up 30 to 40%. Imagine owning an asset, and all of a sudden the demand for it went up and you could charge more. You know that by mitigating your risks. To mitigate the risk of a crash, it's fixed rate debt, right? And part of the problem in 2008 was all of the people who had adjustable rate loans. So you can do that by going, okay, what do I not know? I don't want to be over levered because I don't know the mistakes I'm going to make. You could overvalue what you think you're going to get for rents. You can overestimate your ability to get a tenant in time or to screen tenants right. So, right, so the more levered you are, the more risk there is for that. I specifically house hacked a duplex first instead of a fourplex because when I was starting out, I knew I was the problem. I was still learning because I had the problem with the house, but I was learning with the duplex. I'm the problem when it comes to managing my properties. What if I'd put a bad tenant in there and they're not paying? And what if I'm so bad at it, every tenant I place isn't going to pay because I don't screen them right? I was the risk, right? Well, with a fourplex, if three of them aren't paying, I don't know that I would have been able to float that mortgage. So I got the duplex. I'm in one side, tenants in the other. So now I have my house rented out, tenants on the other side of the duplex. I could handle the mortgages if I screen my tenants poorly. I mitigated the risks by understanding I was the problem. Question number 9. What systems can you create that will make more units, not more work? If you own a rental and your tenant takes 5 to 20 hours a week because you don't know what you're doing, how many rentals can you add before it's a full-time job? But if you own rentals and it takes you less than a couple of hours a month to manage your tenants, whether you have 7, 10, or like I have now, I have 17 different tenants, it takes me about 2 hours a month. I won't feel the 19th and 20th tenants. I didn't feel the 14th tenant. So I have several. I can't just have one. I have several handymen in place who I have filtered through over the years, and it's kind of a revolving door as either their life gets implodes on them and they disappear, or they get so good at their job they become contractors and then they're not affordable for the small jobs I like to use them for. But you have a revolving door of these handymen. This is my system that helps me travel, be lost here in where am I now? Hua Hin, Thailand, where yeah, I'll probably have things go wrong with tenants this month. But I have handyman in place to handle them. I'm not going to have to fly back to the US to handle an issue, even a tenant turnover. I have Hemlane in place so that I can step up to a leasing agent for the month if I need to. What systems do I have in place, or what systems can you get in place that will make more units not mean more work? Could it be that you need to master the spreadsheet? As you get more than 3 or 4 tenants, do you know the exact month your leases renew? For years, I didn't know or care. I just kind of got to them when I needed to. Then Chesla comes along and she goes, look at this spreadsheet. On this month, the color changes because in 3 months, we got a renewer. This is the time you do the binder. So this organized, structured spreadsheet. I don't know that it makes life easier, but it makes it much more effective. Could it be checklists? Do you have a printable sheet for when you have a tenant turnover of the things you need to check? Like we don't all know to go see, is the 50 amp plug-in for the stove still in the kitchen? Is the 50 amp plug-in still in the hallway for the dryer? Because tenants will steal those. Learned that last November. That was fun. Do you have a contractor list? So in my phone, I have a contact for every one of my properties. And in the notes, I'll have every contractor that's worked there, right? Plumbers, electricians. But then I'll have contractors in my phone. So if I got a call right now, it is 7 in the morning, 4:30, it's 7:30 in the morning here, 4:30 at home. If I get a call in like 5 hours because it's midnight at a certain tenant, which one am I going to call for a plumbing issue? Which plumber do I call? You know, the stress there is if you're in another country and you think, okay, I got to think of where that is. I got to go to a Google Maps. I got to look up plumbers. I got to find the one with 24 hours. No, I go to my phone and I go, okay, these are the plumbers that I've saved. These are their rates that I've looked at or contacted them or hired them previously. This is my experience I saved in their notes as a contact. All of that is right there, ready to go. Contract list based on their speciality: plumbing, electricity, roofing. Do you have a system in place for getting the best interest rates? Is there stress when you think, oh, I have to go get a mortgage? Or am I excited that I get to play the game of 5 or 6 emails playing lenders against each other and get the best interest rates and the cheapest cost to buy down my rates every time? Like, it's kindergarten simple because I have a system in place. More units or adding more units is not going to create more work. Amateurs chase deals. Professionals chase repeatability. Question number 10. If I did this is the one that matters to me out of all of these. Like all of those were kind of important, but this one, if you don't know this one, I don't know that you'll even start. If I did this for 10 years, what would life look like? Yes, the list of 20 questions that stop you in your tracks or keep you poor, one of them was, how can I do it faster? Don't think how you can do it faster. Think if you set a 10-year plan, not a 1-year plan, not 5 years, you don't understand how hockey stick growth happens until you've experienced it. At 10 years, if I did this, what will life look like? And for me, it was a very kindergarten simple thing. I thought I could save up a down payment to a house hack every 2 years. I'd be able to buy a place every 2 years. In 10 years, I'd have five. I'd have five rentals. But most importantly, I'd have one that I had for 8 years, one that I had for 6 years, one that I had for 4 years. So it wasn't I just got five rentals. It's I've had some of them long enough to do rent increases, refinances, increased deductibles to lower insurance premiums, maybe do value add a closet to a den to make a third bedroom or whatever it took to make that cash flow at 10 years significant enough to where I knew that when I was old enough to where I couldn't work anymore, I would not become a financial burden to my kids, which was my goal starting out. It wasn't financial freedom, wasn't retire early. That was all just an accidental byproduct of the income snowball that kicked in after 5 years. But I never would have made it to 5 years if I set 2 or 3 year goals. I set a 10-year goal. Got a property in 2 years, got a property in 2 years. Then it was a year and a half, right? It speeds up later. Not sure I was expecting that, but I was okay with it because I had a 10-year plan. What will your life look like in 10 years? Can you even think of that? I have an alarm set. I don't know why. What cash flow do you think you would have in 10 years? What will time freedom look like for you? Yes, I've got a friend whose wife convinced him he shouldn't retire. He can retire at 55 with a pension, but she's got him convinced he shouldn't because he likes to be busy and you need to be doing something. How sad is your life if you have to be paid to be doing something to keep your life busy? What will your stress level be like in 10 years? How will you feel when you have 10 years of investing? How would you feel today if 2015 you started this journey with a 10-year plan? How will you feel in 10 years if you can just have location freedom, family freedom? How would you feel if you were in a position where a family member could call with an emergency and you could help them? Whether you have the time freedom to do it or the money situation to do it. If a 10-year vision excites you, if it gets your blood going, then the temporary discomfort is tolerable. Early retirement doesn't come from asking, what if it fails? It comes from asking, what's the next step? What's the math? What's the system? What's repeatable? What makes this safer and faster at the same time? Fear asks questions designed to protect your comfort. Wealth also asks questions designed to change your trajectory. Here's the truth most people don't like. The moment your questions change, your future changes. If you're still asking the same questions you were 5 years ago, that's not curiosity, that's a habit. Now, the purpose of the rest of this video is to answer the questions you put in the chat. There are no wrong questions. I might comment on if this is a question giving you permission to not take action, or if that's a question that the answer to can help move you forward with, because that's the goal. My goal with all of my content is to convince the average individual that you can reach financial freedom in 10 years or less, make work completely optional, even if you're not starting from the best position. I'm watching it happen in real time. I've been making content now for almost 5 years. I believe next January will be the fifth anniversary of putting out content on YouTube. And I'm hoping that it's at least helped one person, maybe two persons. Howdy, everybody. Welcome to another Tuesday Live. This happens every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific. Uh, this is what we're coming up on episode 200 here in a few weeks. I think I'll still be in Thailand for episode 200. I don't know. I suppose it depends on if they go to war full time or not. Flavio, howdy. Good to see you here. Uh, Lubao and Chris Posey, howdy. Welcome to Someday. If you are hitting a point in memberships, congratulations. If you have joined the membership, congratulations. We are doing a members only call in about an hour and a half where we will analyze this, we'll learn the skill of analyzing a deal. It takes about 45 minutes to break down. This is why I do it on the members, because we all jump on Zoom together, keeps out the haters usually. And we look at a deal, preferably one you bring to the table, somebody brings to the table. If not, I'll look at one of the ones from my agents. I prefer not to, because I'll probably buy it. And I'm actively in buy mode right now. But we look at all of the aspects that it takes to determine, is this a good deal or a bad deal? And while most times people focus on math, that's about a 5-minute part of the 45-minute conversation. Math is important. We don't practice until we get it right. We practice until we can't get it wrong. But there's so many other things that go into knowing if a deal is good or bad, from the neighborhood to the parking to the aspects of the property that will help keep your strategy working, whether it's tenant turnover or attracting short term or rent by room or whatever aspects you're looking for. We'll actually go through what would we check and in what order, because the 45 minutes time that it takes to learn the skill gives us a 3 to 5 minute use of the skill. So that when you are looking at deals and you have 20 to 30 minutes a day to look at deals, you can look at least 4 or 5 of them. Wayne, howdy. Mark, aloha. Jay Mullis, howdy. Good to see you guys here. Jason, good to see you. Good evening. Hope to see everybody in the members only tonight if you can. Brian, Builds Wealth, howdy. There you go. Buzz Tune, Mikey, good to see you. Alex, howdy. How is life in the stormy, what power keeps going out area of Bremerton and Port Orchard that you're stuck in for now for a few more years so you can come over here and hang out with me? Where one night I think there was a storm, but this is how bad the storm was. I think we had a storm. Kyle Dorn, howdy. Good to see you here. Basilio, howdy. Good to see you. Alex, decrease spending. There you go. Got to be proactive, not reactive. Exactly. I agree. I totally agree. I love it. Don't talk about it. Be about it. Make decisions thoroughly, but fast. Yeah. Got to actually make the decision too. Stewart's Mary. Howdy. Good to see you here. Invest average. Howdy. Alex, what should be on my Christmas list to start my YouTube channel? Good question. A good microphone, which I don't have with me. This is just MacBook microphone, so it sounds okay. I'm comfortable with it. I've got a good portable microphone. It's Christmas happens before I get home, so I'd have to look in my Amazon to tell you which microphone I got for the house. If you're just starting the channel, I would go with a simple, microphones can be $30, $40 or less, but you want something. When you really get into it and you want that warm sounding voice, then there's a microphone and something it connects to before it goes to the computer. I'm not a tech guy. I actually asked Kent at the local meetup which one to get. So maybe you can ask him, Alex, the next time you're there. He's really knowledgeable about that. A backdrop. You notice in most of my videos, I've got the map. I usually take the map with me so that no matter where I'm at, I've got the same background. Most of your videos you can record on your phone. Alex, I Forget the last time I texted you if you have an iPhone or not. YouTube likes iPhones more than Androids. So even Millennial Mike, while he has an Android, he's a devout Android fan. He has an iPhone for recording stuff. Uh, yeah, and don't overthink the YouTube. Just start making content. Uh, yeah. So Merry Christmas to you. Good luck with your channel. Let me know what I can do to help. Chester, howdy. Good to see you here. Lead Pray Hodel, Coach Nick, howdy. Are you enjoying the dip to buy in? Because if that was my asset class, I'd be super excited right now. Native to Earth, howdy. Finally made one. It's been like 6 months. Ouch. Astrid, howdy. Any tips on splitting a water bill for a triplex? It's currently under one of the tenant's names. This tenant is in charge of collecting payments from other tenants, but is accruing late charges. Right. So most of my properties are in municipalities where they will only bill the owner. So I can't put the water in the tenant's name. I bill the tenants myself and I collect it with the rent. You have to know your state and local laws. Some won't let you charge an amount that's different than what your actual bill is. So you might have to have the bill, divide it, back bill a month. For me, in my state, we're allowed to flat rate. So I took what it usually is and I charge a little bit more so that in the summer when the water bill spikes, I don't charge the tenant more. It balanced out for the rest of the year. Use a strategy that works for your local market. I prefer to collect those kind of bills myself. I don't like a tenant being a collector of stuff that's giving them a job, giving them responsibility, accountability. I don't want to be waiting. I don't want to be relying on tenants. So I don't know that I'd be comfortable with the strategy you have now, as much as I would just be billing each one and putting it with the rent. Separate meters are an option. You can actually add meters into your stuff that isn't related to the water or the billing, but you can track how much water is going to each unit. Don't know about the cost. I haven't done that anywhere. I just charge a flat fee. Uh, Water is one I'm a little more comfortable with than I am. So here's an example to think about why I would not be comfortable with your situation. So we're the owner of the property. We're taking all the risk. That's why we make the profit from the rent. If the roof goes bad, we're the capital expense people. We don't go to the tenants and go, hey, the roof is bad. So each of you need to give us $5,000 so we can do this $15,000 roof project. But what if you had a leak, right? You can get an $8,000 water bill next month if the water just started running full-time underground break leak. That's the risk we take as an owner. Now, if you don't have the reserves, it would be an insurance problem. But if you have the reserve, it's a you problem. You think your tenant's going to give you $8,000 if the water broke, but they're paying the water bill? They'll pay based on usage often. If it goes above a certain amount, you can charge extra, but not for the leak. So I would want to be the one paying the water bills and billing the tenants and tracking that, watching for leaks. A lot of times, if you have a leak, your water company will actually notify you. They'll say, look, your water usage this month is up significantly. You should look into this. Native to Earth question. Is it smart to keep all of your rental properties in your portfolio in one insurance company? What's your recommendation on that? Almost all of mine are with one insurance company. I think I've got different underwriters based on Stillwater Insurance covers most of mine through Geico, right? But I shop insurance every time. But they don't cover two buildings on one property. They don't cover in my market certain ages of buildings, right? So some of them goes through Travelers, I think. So I shop different insurances to make sure I'm getting a good rate and good coverage, the right coverage, right? You know what you're going to have to look up what you need. What I want is full replacement value. I don't want just the mortgage made whole. I want to be made whole. What else do I have? $300,000 injury on each property. Then I have the umbrella. So like I have the policies that match what my portfolio needs are. So you'd want to do the same. But it's shop. I stay away from the big names, the progressives, the farmers, the whatever. I'll use a broker. And if they will look at those and they have the best rate, sure, I would take them. But they're usually 4 or 5 times the cost of what I've gotten through Geico with Stillwater, even when I shop rates and Travelers. So it's like lending. I don't want my insurance company to like me. I don't want my lender to like me. I want my lender to know I'm going to shop rates every time I get a mortgage. I want my insurance company to know every time they give me a quote, I'm competing with them and other agencies. Cracked canvas. Howdy. Star Wars Mary. I finished your book and I'm going to buy 2 more for life-changing Christmas gifts. Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. It's out on Kindle now. So if you know friends or family who aren't so much into the paper version, they travel with a reading device. Audible is recorded, working on releasing that with ACX now. That's not an easy process. It will happen sometime between next week and Nebuary. That's how confident I am in my ability to battle ACX to get Audible released. It took 6 months for one rental at a time, and probably 4 months for 15 conversations with real estate millionaires. But awesome. Ninja Vanish. Howdy. Maybe see you at the members only tonight. Larry Chong. Dionism. You can't change the people around you. You can change the people around you. That is very accurate. And you don't even have to change the people around you. You just have to change the people around you. I still hang out with the people I can't talk finances with. Well, not now, but there's a friend I've had since the Marine Corps who worked in finance and was a mortgage underwriter and hates the whole idea of real estate. It's a scam, it's gambling, or he's going to wait for the crash, or he's going to wait for rates to come down, so he'll never own a rental. We just don't talk it. But I also hang out with people who do talk real estate, who I can text sometimes when it's 2 o'clock in the morning, wherever they're at, about real estate. Richard, howdy from California. Nice to see you here. Alex, I say that because I grew up in California. Couldn't wait to leave. Took an oath to not go back. Not an oath. Promise not to go back. Told my mom, if you want me at your funeral, you're going to have to come to Washington and die. Then I broke that to go to a one rental at a time event. Alex will not buy another alligator. Smart. The accidental landlord. Welcome to the members only. Hope to see you there. We're all going to jump on Zoom together and we'll practice that skill. Won't buy near noise. Smart. Renee Wall, guys. Nice. Won't buy near noise. Yep. One of the things that we do when we look at analyzing a deal is we open the map and we zoom out a few blocks and we think, okay, what is there around here that could have a strong smell or a loud noise? Those can be either deal breakers or something to research. One person was buying a property, and I just kind of reference all the time. A water treatment plant or a water desalination plant might not be something that I want close to one of my properties. And he was buying a property that abuts a water treatment plant. But he had been to the property and there was no strong smell. So you can research. It's not like it's an instant disqualification, but it gives you, as I'm looking deeper into this property, this is something to check. I Heart Z, howdy. Can you put a link to your course and/or tell us a little more about it? Can we jump in at any time? You can jump into the course at any time. It's at diontalk.com, one word, D-I-O-N, not D-E, diontalk.com. And there's a thing right now, if somebody buys the course, they get a free call and then a free follow-up call in like a month. And so I've been doing some of those on this trip. I've enjoyed those. Getting the timing to work out is great. Those calls should be in the evening for you, so then it's in the morning for me. Morning and noon don't work for me very well. Kind of like the Three Amigos recording that I'll have Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock, which means it's 11:30 at night here. And I'll be going to a new hotel, so I don't know what the backdrop will be or what the Wi-Fi will be like. That's always fun. I want to title a series of videos in Wi-Fi, Where the Wi-Fi Grows. So tell you about the course. Everything that's in my course is on YouTube. Right, I've got thousands of videos on YouTube, but what the course is it's filtered down to the actionable steps in order of how to reach financial freedom the way that I did, the strategies that I used, the systems that I put in place. So it's filtered down to just that. But really what you're getting when you get in the course and why you can jump into it at any time is every other month, right? So December, there's nothing going on in the course, but January 1st, or so for the month of January, there's a course call every week. We all get on Zoom together. It's not like learning the deal, analyzing a skill like the members. That we do a specific reason for those videos. But we get in there and we do portfolio deep dives. We study markets. We learn skills outside of analyzing a deal. We study communications. We look at negotiations. We look at NLP. We look at mirroring, parroting. We look at all of these skills that to make you a better investor. And there's usually only I want to say 10 or so people in those because it's not like a boot camp where it's scheduled and everybody does it. It's for this month, everybody who wants to or wants to see the next step in their portfolio happen, we jump in there together and we look at specific problems in their area, like a think tank. But it's every other month. So it'll be January, not February, March, not April, right? And so currently, the plan is, I want to say in perpetuity, but it's as long as I can handle it. Um, and when there's internet. So that's what the course is for. The binder course there is free. There are people who right now they have booked calls there, but it's better to join the course and then get the free call because then you also have options to be in all of those Zooms in the future. But everything that's in the course is on YouTube. So if you binge 3,000 hours of YouTube, you don't need the course. If you want the less than 20 hours, chronological in order, in the Zooms, that's what the course is for. Really, it's a filter for me. And so here's the transparency. When I first started giving out information about reaching financial freedom, I was just doing it on Facebook. I was in the BiggerPockets, the official BiggerPockets Facebook group, the Real Estate Rookie Facebook group, the BiggerPockets Money Facebook group, and I was just answering questions. And every now and then I would take a call. People would, they would say, "Oh God, this is confusing," and I'd say, "Well, let's take a call." So I took probably from 2019 to 2020, the end of 2020, probably 30 or 40 calls at an hour long. It was like a job for free. I just was taking calls. And I realized these are people who are never going to do anything. Almost every call I had was just somebody who's not taking action. Like two or three of them probably did something. And I was like, wow, I'm really wasting my time. So when I put the course together for the binder, which I give away for free, I made a course that people can join so that when I either take the calls or I'm interacting with somebody or I'm giving up a lot of my time more one-on-one, like this is a video that, hundreds of people watch today, but thousands in the next couple of weeks, like fine. I'm totally happy giving 2 hours or so to hit that many people. But an hour per person, that becomes life consuming. So there's the barrier is the cost to get in the course, which basically covers the cost of making the course because it's 10 grand basically to make a course. So the binder, which is free, was $10,000 to put together because internet is stupid. So if you join the course, that's really what you're getting is I'm getting filtered through to people who are most likely to take action or are taking action and can do it better. Thank you. PE turned RE. Curtis will need that handyman plan if I buy a portfolio in Centralia. Have seller meeting Sunday. Nice. Yep. I'd have to test out Centralia for Thumbtack because the order of operations for handyman is hire somebody off of Thumbtack for a not too hard job. See how their interaction was with the tenant, see how their communication style was with you, compare what their prices should be. Before and after pictures to see how their work was done. It's not just the quality of work, but they could do great work, be a finished contractor or finished carpenter. But if they pissed off the tenant, I'm not going to use them again. Or I'm not going to use them on an occupied property again, right? Like take notes. And once you've used them, then you develop a relationship. You find out what they like to do, what they don't like to do. Tell them the size of your portfolio that you're going to be growing. Maybe they want a relationship with you so that you can use them in the future. If Thumbtack is not an option, I can get into the local groups there, the meetups. Curtis, you go to many of them. So I'd find out from the contractors there, who do they use? Same thing, hire them for a not very important job and test them on all of the same aspects, build the list, constantly building the list because it will change. And good luck. Good luck from Alex too. And don't forget to smash the like button. Thank you. And then my chat moved. Is it fishing season for Hyder? I don't think it is. I think it's too cold right now. Josh, howdy. Greetings in Florida. That's what we call the Australia of the US. 64 watching, only 30 likes. Hit the like button. It's the most fun your finger will have today. There you go. It's lame here, but I'll be headed to Japan on Friday. Nice. Cool. Marland, howdy. I thought it did say memento mori. Life is temporary. A reminder of the inevitability of death, used to focus on the present and find meaning in life. Yes, make sure life is worth living. Engineered. I like it. Engineered. Howdy. Question. How to get a spouse into investing? I have to keep her because it will be much cheaper. This is a great reason to be married or stay married. There was a movie in the 70s called Cheaper to Keep Her. Very depressing. Never let a kid watch it. They might grow up thinking marriage is not worth it. Imagine that. They might have an argument with their partner's daughter about how important marriage is. Who knows? All things are possible. And that was a bit specific. I don't know that it's important that your spouse is into investing. If you're into sports, do you care that your spouse is into the same sport? So I have an ex, one of my exes is one of the six, um, who's a clone, right? I didn't realize it when we were together, but I realized it after the cycle of men that she went through after me, that whoever she's with, she becomes. If they're a Wiccan, she's a Wiccan. If they're into football, she paints her face. If they're into politics, she's a politician. Like it just doesn't matter. Whatever the person is, they become. And every relationship is doomed to fail. Opposites attract. You don't need to be all into the same things. Where the investing becomes a problem is if you wanting to invest creates a sacrifice that you and your spouse have to tolerate, now you need buy-in, right? So it's not so much important that you need a spouse who's like, "Oh, let's get the next thing. I'm excited about the next investment." You need a spouse who's like, "Well, if you're saving money, then we're not spending money on things I want to spend money on," right? So that's the compromise. What does your spouse want, like, and what are they into? Right? If they're into something, I met with somebody in Florida when I was there a few years ago. He wanted to house hack. His wife wasn't into investing. She really didn't want to house hack. And the move was going to create $600 of income that they didn't have. So if they make the move, they have $600 of income. I told him, and this was a younger couple, and I said, this was just a guess. It ended up being right. But I said, you guys are kind of young, probably tight on money, and you want to make a house hack. You want to buy a house, get on the property ladder, but this is going to have a $600 a month impact to your finances. How about you take $200 of that and you tell her that that's hers? If you're willing to move into this, you get $200 a month. And as a young couple, this is very important. I had to like break it down Barney style for him. You tell her it's hers. You can never question her on what it's used for. She can save it. She can take her friends to lunch. She can get nails or hair or put it in a college kids fund, whatever she wants to do. You can't question it. The $400 isn't yours. It's the investing fund. So you want the house hack. You don't get extra income to spend. You get money to save and invest. But your spouse gets the money to spend. And she was on board. They ended up buying the house hack, rode off into the sunset together, whatever you want to say. It might not be that with your spouse. It might be, here's the vacations that I want to take you on in 8 years. I want to be able to take you on a full month or 3 months in this country or on this cruise. You know, I don't want to do like there's a financial freedom for the lazy person cruise in June. The link is in the description below. So if you want to go to that, it's in June 2026. We're all going, but it's a 1 week cruise from Alaska. That is a vacation, but that is not a dream vacation that you set years in the future. If you go to your spouse and you say, look, if I invest the way I want to for the next 5 to 10 years, we'll be financially free. If that doesn't ring her bell or their bell, because maybe they want to work until they die. Okay, who knows? Maybe they want to keep working. But maybe that dream vacation of several months would happen if the investing happened between now and then. Maybe it's the time freedom. Maybe they don't like that you work so much because you're working overtime or a side hustle to have the money to invest, to have the investments. What does that future life look like in 10 years, right? Now, question number 10 on today's video. What does life look like in 10 years? Is that the carrot on the stick that can make them maybe not get into investing like you, but maybe willing to take the sacrifices that you're doing to get what you want? Alex is an example where for years he was with his partner who really wasn't into investing. He didn't push it. She just started to see what could be possible, and now she's kind of on board. It comes along like I can't go to my kids and say, you should be investing because you'll have a better future. What I can do is travel all over the world, scuba dive, send them pictures of taking a nap with a tiger, send them pictures of swimming with elephants, send them pictures of scuba diving wherever I want, and have each one of them at some point finally realize that's the life they could have if they started paying attention, right? So I don't know that you can actively bring them on board, but find a reason to justify the sacrifice that you're asking them to take. I think that's where I would focus. This is not relationship advice because I have not pulled one of those off. Like not the relationship. I don't give parenting advice either, but investing advice, making sure that they understand why they might have to do without some things. And it is never cheaper to keep somebody. Never. Oh, we'll stop there. Alex, introduce your wife to other investors. Mine has interest in short-term rentals. Yuck, but guess what? We're trying out. There you go. So Alex is willing to deal with some sacrifice to deal with an aspect of investing that she's excited about. Renee, howdy. Took back a message forever and ever. I will lose sleep tonight wondering what was said. Pew Deliver, this is Trisha. I won't buy beside a railroad. Nice. There you go. I wouldn't buy beside a railroad depending on the type of railroad. There is a uh, it's a railroad because it's a train, but it's like a passenger train that goes from Lake Hood, Washington into Seattle, Washington. I would buy somewhat close to that for walkability for the people who want to commute from Seattle. So within reason, but I won't buy close enough to where everything shakes when the train comes. And then my chat moved, which I appreciate. That means that people asked questions. And I appreciate every single question because without questions, it's just me staring at the camera. And that would get creepy really quick. Janelle, howdy. Where in California did you grow up? The armpit of the Mojave Desert called Rosamond, California, until the ninth grade, then Palmdale for high school. And then I joined the Marines to get out of the desert, and they put me in 29 Palms, Saudi, Kuwait, like everywhere there's just dirt, although I did go to Okinawa, but tropical desert. Um, so when I got out of the Marines, I looked at the entire country and I thought, where does it rain? And the choices were Washington, where there is no R, or Maine. And I've read too many Stephen King books to want to live anywhere near there. So I moved to Washington and been there ever since. Self-education and autodidact. Howdy. Hope this isn't a bad hypothetical question. How do you handle the fear when starting out having one rental and bad events happening that would strain cash flow? A great question. And here's it. So this isn't a flippant answer. This is a real answer. When I'm starting out, I don't care about cash flow. Write that down. A guy on the internet said, I don't care about cash flow. So many people are hung up on cash flow. I bought 3 deals when starting out that were break-even deals. So problems when starting out would mean negative cash flow. So I'm going to answer your question. It's a very important question, but part of it is I don't care about cash flow. I want to own a property that has the potential for appreciation with the bank's money involved. I want to own a property that gives me a depreciation schedule that's levered with the bank's money so that I'm not paying any taxes on income when it is good. I want to buy a property that has physical aspects that helps keep tenants because I want long-term tenants. So I want pet-friendly fenced yards, side by side, not over under, washer dryer hookups, a garage or a carport, not in a good school district, in a red county, in a blue state. Like I've got all these criteria that I go through. In there somewhere, I make sure I'm not buying an alligator. I don't want to lose money, but I'd like to make money. Reserves are going to reduce your fear of having issues. The first year or two, that's when you're starting out, because you actually said when starting out, that's when the stress happens. The fear in the beginning is, what if I have an expense? The fear later is it shifts into something new. What if you have a professional tenant and a long an eviction or any of those kind of things, or a foundation issue or a roof issue, right? So as you build your reserves, the bigger the reserve pile, the less that stress happens. When I'm buying a property, well, I have bought break-even deals. I was still able to set aside 15% of gross rents to break even for future expenses. So in that first year or two, it feels like expenses come out of your pocket. You have a water heater break. The water heater costs you $600 or $700. Getting it installed costs $600 or $700. So in my market, $1,500 or so to have a water heater put in. I've heard significantly more than that in some areas. So know your local market and where the water heater is placed. And if they have to build the basin, the drain, the expansion tank, like all the extra things that they might have to do. So costs can be different. But in the beginning, I was like, oh, these water heaters, they're going to go out eventually. That's an expense. And then I built reserves out of the tenant's money. So 15% of gross rents as the portfolio grew becomes significant. It's like over $5,000 a month right now that's going into an account that I don't use. That's just for future expenses. So I get excited when something breaks. If I have a garage door that fails, not just like needs a new spring or something, and it's failed, and I put in a new garage door and it cost me a couple grand, I'm happy. Tenants gave me money to put into an account to put a new garage door and a new motor and new rails and one of my assets. It didn't cost me anything. There's a not an argument, but a difference of the way Matt, the lumberjack landlord, and me look at things. He looks at it as an expense as he made less that year. I look as an expense as I was able to use some of the money I was setting aside to better my assets. So I look forward to those expenses. When I was in Portugal a couple of years ago, no kidding, if within like 1 month I had, and the numbers are 3 or 4, and I forget which way it was, but it was 3 or 4 water heaters and 3 or 4 refrigerators in the same month. We had like a cold snap or something and it effed them everything up. Even that didn't make me go into reserves. It was handled through cash flow. So that's later in investing, right? It's those first few years where it feels like it comes out of your pocket. I think it's looking forward, understanding that it won't always be this way, right? The biggest compliment and biggest threat you can make to anyone is it won't always be like this. So yeah, build those reserves, but build the discipline to, as you invest and own new properties, that you continue to have the ability to set aside 15% of gross rents. Now, the cheaper the market, my friend Millennial Mike, who just spoke at the Robin Hood Resort, who will be at the One Rental at a Time event in February, he invests in Gary, Indiana, where rents are significantly less. It's a cheaper market. 15% of gross rents won't cover expenses. So he sets aside 25%. I'm in a higher cost of living area. If you invest in San Diego, maybe you set aside 0.00001% of your gross rents, and that's plenty. But where I'm at, it's 15%. In a cheaper market, it might be a bigger percentage. In a more expensive market, it would be smaller. So it's a sliding scale based on how much your rents are. Danny, howdy, or Daniel. Binder strategy for the win. I use it on my tenants now and even give them the links to the listings that are comps for my area. Awesome. I still do, even with rent control, I'm still doing the binder strategy because it creates happy tenants, and happy tenants don't leave or trash the property. The Riley Oak, howdy. Thanks for doing these. Do you do walkthroughs? If so, when? I do not. I have handymen that check for certain things when they're at a property. If I do a lease signing, I might do a walkthrough. If I have properties with stairs, I'll kind of do a walkthrough or schedule a handyman walkthrough where I get a video of somebody shaking the banister, walking up and down the stairs, safety issues. I'm trying to think of other walkthroughs. No, it's my goal to not have to go to properties. I can go to properties, right? I rent to a nephew. I rent to a son. I rent to a friend that I used to work with. Don't do that in the beginning. Once you have systems in place, it's fine. But don't start out doing that because you won't have systems in place and you'll get walked all over. You'll probably ruin relationships. There's a chronology to the ability to rent to friends and family. But yeah, I'll go to their house and hang out. Last time I went and saw my nephew. I just show up like, it's a barbecue. Oh, I guess I had to swap out all these thermostats because they're old. It probably is best practice to have an annual or more scheduled walkthrough where you have a handyman go, compensate them for their time, how much travel time they have could be a factor too, where they just walk through, check, make sure doors and windows work, maybe pop test each outlet, do like a small inspection, tell you if the gutters need cleaned or something, right? Send pictures. But you also educate your handyman to check for things like, no kidding, these wouldn't be real things if they weren't real things. How much laundry is piled up against the cadet heaters or the baseboard heaters? How many pets do they actually have? How many people seem to be living there? How many soda cans and food wrappers are laying on the counter or the kitchen floor that could attract ants? Have them take pictures, have them to know to look for things like that, or to flush the toilet, listen to how long it takes to refill. Does it continuously run? Does the flushing mechanism seem to work right? Those are pretty easy to repair or replace, right? You have like a standard checklist of things that they check or things that you would check if you're doing walkthroughs. especially if you're the one paying the water bill. A running toilet can cost you lots of money. Make a list of those things to be checked. And it can be simple things like how many, uh, what are they called when you have several plugins on a thing plugged into one thing? Do they daisy chain those and create a fire hazard? Because some tenants will do silly things. Native to Earth. I've taken extreme action since finding your channel and watching all of your videos in 2024. Joined the military for VA loan access and will be buying a multifamily every year during my enlistment. That's awesome. If it works out, I will try to get on YouTube and explain my experience. That would be great. I have a nephew. He is in Idaho right now in the Air Force, and he has his second duplex. And yeah, so one of the things to learn, you do not have to be a veteran to use your VA loan. You can do that while you're on active duty. You are not limited to one. You can have more than one. You have eligibility, but those limits change often and sometimes go away completely. Uh, yeah, great strategy. Once you have a few and you have the ability to save money, you might not use your VA loan because I've still not even used it. I don't want to be 100% levered. And really, the only real benefit to the VA loan is that you don't have mortgage insurance, right? It covers mortgage insurance for the lender so that you could do zero down without mortgage insurance. But if you're putting a down payment of 20% or more, the VA loan is actually a negative. It's harder to get sellers to accept a VA loan because they think there's more hoops to jump through, like there is with an FHA loan. Maybe you can get a better interest rate, but sometimes it's just owner occupied gets you the best interest rate. So an owner occupied conventional loan to me is better than a VA loan. Now, in your situation where you join the military and you're doing it with the strategy of using your VA loan, perfect. For me, I had the ability to save the down payments. I wanted to keep the VA loan in my back pocket so that if there was a point in time in the future where I have purchased a property, down payment money's gone. And then just like Alex did, Alex purchased his current house hack with an ADU and he gets moved in, and about a month later he looks at the MLS and he's like, oh, look at that amazing deal that just popped up, like we knew it would. I wanted to be in a situation where I have a VA loan available to then go buy it with no money down. Now, it would be a challenge in Alex's specific position because he's doing an owner occupied property, which means he can't do another one for a year. But just in case he bought a rental one day and didn't have the money, then he could go house hack the next one with a VA loan. Congratulations, though. And Bradley Pax took back a message too. You guys just don't want me to sleep ever. Hey, Dion, based on your questions from last week, I was able to interview a CPA. What's your email as I came up with more questions from the interview? It is, this is the best one, in the chat. All-nighter hider, saw you're late. I'm at a Gary REI meetup. Oh, I should have figured out the time for that. I saw that Millennial Mike had a post for it. I didn't know the time though. Good to see you here again, Ryan. Howdy. We can get started now. The accidental landlord, greeting from Jax, Florida. Jackson, probably. Smoke the like button like Cheech and Chong. Thank you. Alex, forgot you saw that. Saw that Millennium Mike last Friday. Nice. There you go. He may speak here soon. There you go. Angel Ray. Howdy. Real estate can be discouraging. I collected 74,000 in rents, but spent over 34,000 in repairs. When I factor in mortgages, I'm barely making 4K for the year. Lots of major repairs. Next year should be better. So that was kind of where my speech was coming from with, now, hopefully you're still here, Angel Ray, and you don't take this as an insult. This is like a teachable moment. Expenses do not impact cash flow. So the way you phrased it is the way the Matt phrases it. I had this much money come in, and then these expenses happened, so that cost me that much money. My brother looks at taxes the same way. He pays his property taxes in April and October. So those 2 months, he doesn't make $0. It all goes to taxes. Instead of saying, well, I'm going to set aside $500 a month from all of my rents for the taxes that hit in April and October. Those are planned expenses, right? Well, we plan for expenses like a roof or a water heater or a garage door by setting aside the money from gross rents into an account. So for me, I do 15%. It's basically around 5,000. I specifically put aside $5,150 a month. It's a cop joke. 5150 means crazy. So I put that into an account. That's $60,000 a year. My worst year, it's very similar numbers here, but that's just what I'm setting aside for repairs and maintenance. My worst year so far was like $36,000. Is that exactly what yours was? Year 34. So we were really similar in our worst year of expenses. I had a septic system go, I had a roof go, I had a bunch of repairs. It was $34,000. That didn't even cover the money I was setting aside for repairs and maintenance. But here's the thing. That's just from that year, right? So if I'm setting aside 60,000 a year, and let's say next year I spent 90 on repairs and maintenance, but I only set aside 60. Well, it's because it's from that year. What about the previous year? Or the one before, where I set aside 60 and probably only spent 10, right? It's not like that month's income has to cover that month's expenses, so that year's income doesn't have to cover that year's expenses. If you're disciplined to set aside 15% of gross rents at all times for future repairs, maintenance, and vacancy, your 74,000 in rents, I mean, you've got mortgages, insurance, taxes, all that stuff that goes out, whatever's left shouldn't be impacted by expenses. It's like a full standalone by its own video that I should be doing on that one. Signed up for the Financial Freedom for the Lazy Person. Hope to see many of you there. Jay Mullis, when did you do that? Oh, for the cruise. Nice. That would be great. Hope to see you there. I have to check in on that. Like I said, the link to that cruise is in the description below. Also, I should have done this at the beginning of the video. I'm going to do this in some short videos in the next couple of weeks. I'm traveling in Thailand. So quick segue from the questions. I'll get right back to them as soon as I can. One of the things that sucks about traveling, go to Portugal. I was there earlier this year. I spent a couple months there in the spring. Um, you can't use Hulu in Portugal. You can't use Hulu in Thailand. Like when you go to log in, it doesn't even give you an option because it wants you to log in with your phone number, which in the US is one dash your phone number. In Thailand, it's 66 dash your phone number. So that's grayed out. So I don't even have a 66 phone number. So what I'm using is called NordVPN. So get yourself a VPN. It's a virtual IP address. Basically, you turn it on and you say, I want this computer to believe I'm in New York or LA or Seattle or Portugal or Thailand or wherever you want. Because what Netflix plays in Asia is totally different than what Netflix plays in the US. So if you go online, and you say there's a show you want to watch and it says it's on Netflix, but you go to watch it and it's not there. It's like you can't watch Paramount Plus on Prime here because they don't have licensure for Southeast Asia. You go to NordVPN, you get a subscription. It's a couple bucks a month, but it lets you tell your computer, I think I'm in Los Angeles. So while I'm here, I can watch any show that I want, like Landman or NCIS or whatever show or It on HBO, whatever show you're into, when you're traveling and make it think you're in a different part of the world. It's amazing. In the description below is a link to NordVPN. If you use that, you get 3 months for free. So you can try it out wherever you're at. Enjoy. But there's also a link to the cruise, a link to the book, a link to the Kindle book, which is now available on Kindle. Nice, but I will see you on the cruise. That'll be good. The Alaska cruise is good. We leave out of Seattle. We return back to Seattle. There are some great excursions to do on there that where I think we're on I forget the name of the ship. I think it's in the description, but it's a huge ship too. Ryan, yep, Mike is on stage chatting it up, and I'm recording it on his phone. Nice. Renee, would you flex on a 520 credit score when you require a 620? I'll be flexible on a flex. I was going to say, would I flex on having a 520? Probably, but that would be an accomplishment. He meets income and length of time at a job. So Renee, I would look at a cosigner. Who does he have that would cosign? And if he doesn't have a cosigner, if they don't have the quality of personality to know somebody that has decent finances, why would you be the one to take the risk on them? But at 520, I'd look at the cosigner. If I required a 620 and they were within maybe 30 points, I might look at credit history. Is there a reason? Was there a divorce? Was there a medical thing? Was it whatever? Was there a reason? But 520, no, without a cosigner, that would be a deal killer for me. In my market, your market might be different. How does that compare? Jason Hartman quote, compared to what? In your market, what are most credit scores? Millennial Mike in Gary, Indiana, rents primarily to Section 8. And he says anybody who has a 620 credit score just buys a house, which I can totally believe because Section 8, I don't know if people know this, but Section 8 has a program to help their clients buy properties. In my market, below 700 it's got to have a story or a cosigner. And so if your market, if you're at 620, 520 is even, so if I want a 700 and they're all the way at 600, that's cosigner, not even a story. If they're at 670, now it's a story. Invest average. When I grow up, I want to travel like you. Traveling is great. No, let me correct that. Being places is amazing. Traveling sucks. We came here. We wanted to see this. So this is when you travel Chesla's first time to Thailand. So there's a few things we wanted to do. We wanted to do Phuket. We wanted to do lions or tigers and elephants and zip lining and a little bit of Bangkok, but not much. Um, we're not the Pattaya type people, so we're not going there. Um, if you know, you know. But we went. I think we took a overnight bus to Chiang Mai. That's fine. The buses are double decker, full reclining. It's very comfortable. You can bus travel all over Asia. But then we wanted the overnight trains to Bangkok to Surat Thani to get close to Phuket. Like we're traveling all over the country here. And it's funny, most of the people that we talk to here that have jobs here that they've never been to the places in their own country that we're going to. I don't understand why, because they don't travel much. Um, but there's different versions of the train. We learned that when we booked the room, supposed to get a room. Well, apparently the early train isn't a room, it's a bunk. Travel the later train to get the full room. Um, Traveling sucks until you've done it a couple times to get it like fresh in your memory. But once you get there, once you get to Hua Hin and you check into the Hyatt, which you don't need to even go to the Hyatt, it's just stupid expensive compared to some of the other ones, or the Hilton or whatever, and you have a couple of weeks there or a couple of months there, that's amazing. But not the travel part. Customs, this bag doesn't fit in my stupid container. Lufthansa sucks when you travel Europe. Um, this is how stupid the person at the counter was. I travel with a like a duffel bag type personal bag, so it's squishy. It's mostly clothes, right? I don't travel with much. My gaming computer in my separate bag, then I got that bag. Well, since it's puffy, she goes, it's too big. So I put it in the container and I go to push it down to show her that it compresses and it can fit if you just smush it. My weight pushing down on it made it go over the weight limit. I said, but yeah, but that's only while I'm pushing on it. She's stupid. Anyway, segue deconstructed. Lufthansa. It's the only airline I hate. Even though American Airlines made me put ammunition in its original packaging, literally had me throw ammunition away in the trash can because they didn't have original packaging. Don't hate them for that. It's just a policy. Lufthansa, it's retarded. R word, hard R. Uh, Alite, Alitea. That is a really cool name. Hey, Dan, this is the first time for me to catch your live streaming. Are you still planning on booking a cruise next year? If so, can you talk about it? Absolutely. So thanks for asking. I did talk about it probably before you posted that. So it's in the link below. It's June, I think 21st to 28th or something, dates and everything, and the person to contact are in there. It's a week of us hanging out. It doesn't all have to be talking about finances or financial freedom, but it can be because everyone who knows me knows I can't shut up about it. But it's getting around like-minded people. Pew Deliver would like to hear your perspective on the optimization phase after stabilization. I haven't tried Vaughn VPN. It's just NordVPN is the one I've done. That's what you use to travel and enjoy everything everywhere. Perspective on optimization phase after stabilization. So there's a few aspects. I mean, that's literally a standalone video on its own on optimization, but I think we're close to the end of the question, so I can cover this in pretty detail until other questions come in. Optimization to me is not just, am I getting the best use out of my properties? Have I upgraded every room to get, every den into a bedroom or anything? Optimization for me is to be more stable in retirement. I didn't want to be as levered, right? 70% loan to value in growth phase was my goal. 50% is my goal in retirement, and I'm too low. So I'm going to be adding some debt on a new property being 100% levered. When you have tenant turnover, I've not kicked tenants out to do this, but when I have tenant turnover, okay, look at that property. What can I do to increase the rents on this property? What I have done a couple of times when a tenant's in place is add a shed to charge a storage fee. But when there's tenant turnover, Is every room here LVP? Is there carpet I can get rid of? I don't generally do that with the tenants in place unless it fails. Um, are there rooms that are bonus rooms, a den, family room, or something that could, with an added closet, be a bedroom? That's stabilizing and optimizing. Get your debt manageable. If you have any balloon payments or adjustable rate loans, I don't think you're ever in stabilization mode. To me, I like fixed rate debt that I never have to think about again. Even like Cody, Christian and Cody from Multifamily Strategies, Cody Davis, who has Cody Davis Business Adventures YouTube channel. He's in the optimizing stage where he's downsizing units to get rid of partners and stabilize his debt, right? So he's in that stage now. It's the aspects of the property, it's the aspects of your debt, and it's your systems, right? When we're starting out, I think it's totally okay if you have the skills to go and work on your properties. You be the person to go repair the fence to save the money in the beginning when it really matters. But later, when you have those easy jobs that you can do yourself, here's part of the aspect of stabilization that I don't think too many people focus on. I want happy handymen. If you have a handyman that you only call when it's like, hey, I've got a rat infested, spider infested crawl space with a broken dryer vent, can you crawl in there and fix it? If that's the only thing you ever call them for, they're not happy. But if I contact them and I say, hey, I've got a fan that needs to be replaced, I could totally go do it Saturday myself. But if you'd like to make some money, if you got a clear schedule, would you like to make some money on this easy job? Sure. And then you tip them, right? The system of having a happy handyman list, a list of happy handymen, makes me able to sleep at night because I know I have several people who will answer the text when I need them. 5150, always knew that as a Van Halen album. Nice. Yeah, the California code, LA code for crazy has been around forever. It could even be that was what that's from. I have not tried VPN, just NordVPN is the only one. Um, what else is optimization? Some people focus on the biggest portfolio they can get and never stop. They become the next Pace Morby, who is maybe he's got a good work-life balance, but if you watch him, he seems like such a motivated hard charger that will eventually he look back and think of all the time he could have had with his kid when he was flipping a property versus get to the right size portfolio. I wanted the right amount of cash flow from the least amount of units, and I will add properties because the money piles up, but it's not a goal. I'm not out there looking for the next flip or the next burr because it's going to take my time. I want time freedom to travel or time freedom to hang out with my kids or time freedom to game with my kids while I'm traveling so that we can spend time together, whatever it is. Optimization doesn't mean continue to grow the portfolio actively. And passively, as the money piles up, I will buy the next property. Probably one every year or every other year just because the money piles up. In growth phase, that was not the goal. It was minimize every expense, increase everything I can to increase income. And whenever the money happened, which ended up being every couple of years in the beginning, got faster later, all of the time was dedicated to that growth. That's what I'm looking at removing in optimization is what takes the least amount of my time. Nice. I see Laura. Howdy. Good to see you here. Renee, do you use a separate savings account from your expense account for your rental income? Let me explain my business in as clear terms as possible. As a human in totality, so not like per business, per rental, per whatever, and as a human being in totality, I have one checking account, one saving account, one credit card. Now I do have the Lowe's and Home Depot credit card sitting on a shelf that I don't use, but you get free delivery or $20 delivery on things when you need them. But so I have those there, but I don't use them like credit cards. But I have one credit card. I have a debit card. It's just one of everything. I have one spreadsheet with an account for income, an account for expenses that I give away for free in the free binder course. So if you want to see what that's like at diontalk.com, you can join the binder course for free, get the spreadsheet as a downloadable. That's it. Now, your area might require a separate interest-bearing account for deposits, so make sure you're compliant with local laws. But no, there's no reason to, you can make this as complex or as simple as you want, and I am about as simple as it gets. Like even my reserves, it's just in my account. I mean, how hard is it for my brain to say that 50 grand is scorched earth money? That's when that gets used. Cash flow handles almost everything now. Um, yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think, like, is there a benefit to having more than one account? You just feel different by creating more work for yourself. It's a great question, but no, I'm as simple as it can get. Um, yeah, I have a video out like how I really run my rental business. It's all ran on my phone. I'm a Supernatural fan, if you can't tell. Um, that was a street painter, by the way. They were expecting me to, I'm in Thailand. They're like, paint me an elephant, paint me a tiger. Tesla got, I think, a tiger because she's the Chinese month of the tiger or whatever. Um, I was like, no, I want the "You Can't Find Me" logo. And then on my backpack, they did the Mark of Cain. I'm a nerd. I think I've been clear about that. Um, oh yeah, that's what I need. Suggestions for my tattoo to get while we're in Thailand, so we can commemorate the trip. And I don't want to do the Tyson face. I'll try something else. As simple as possible, Renee. If I could do it with it, I don't know why I need a checking and a savings account. That's stupid. But I have those two. I'd rather just have them all in checking. I think partially the reason I do it is in case my checking account gets hacked. I don't even know if this is accurate. They'll just get what's in the checking account, not what's in the saving account. Maybe. Janelle, howdy. When you left your W-2 job, did you keep full healthcare benefits? If not, what do you do for coverage? I got my own insurance. It's super cheap. It's less than $1,000 a month for healthcare. I just have an asset cover it. There's so many people that let healthcare be the handcuffs. They say, I have to work because I need healthcare. You do not get healthcare from your employer. You ask the right question. Did you keep full healthcare benefits, right? You don't get healthcare from your employer. You get insurance from your employer and they cover the premium. So when you retire, you cover the premium. The lumberjack landlord's premium is a lot. It's like between $2,000 and $3,000. I heard him say it once, but I didn't commit it to memory. He created an LLC because one of his kids has a pre-existing condition, but is in full remission, which is amazing. Uh, but he made an LLC not to own rentals in, but to run a business so that he can get the business insurance. For me, it's just a person. And here's the benefit. Now, it could be going away in the future, might change. I might not get any of this money back, but my healthcare is basically free because the ACA, America Cares Act, or whatever Obamacare is, pays you back if your income is low enough. Now, I made over $240,000 in profit last year. Don't hate the player, hate the game. The game is set up like this. This is not a me problem. This is a world problem. The IRS rewards, incentivizes, and wants you to do certain things. They don't want you to work. They don't want you to be self-employed. They tax you as an employee. It's a punishment tax. 40% of what you make usually goes. Social Security, taxes, whatever, it's going to go away. Long-term disability, whatever they can just force you to pay. Self-employed, Ryan knows this as a contractor, you pay taxes as an employer and the employees are 60%. It's the cash flow quadrant from Robert Kiyosaki. You own a business, what they want you to do, you're going to pay capital gains around 20%. Now, if you're an investor, since I get write-offs and I get to depreciate the bank's investment, not just mine, I made $0 last year and carried forward a loss. Like on paper, it looks like I lost money. Now, if I go to get a mortgage, they take depreciation out, and all of a sudden I made a bunch of money. But $240,000 in profit, free healthcare in the US because it looks like I made $0. Play the game the way they want you to. They want housing, they want innovation, they want businesses, they don't want employees, they don't want self-employed, right? They want you to provide jobs for other people. They want you to provide housing for other people. They want you to invent things. So the least amount of taxes comes from that. The least cost in healthcare comes from showing no income. So if you invest in real estate, this is where uh, one of the benefits, one of the side benefits of the Obamacare Act. Now, if it goes away, sure, I'll pay my premium and I won't get the money back. I won't care. I definitely won't think, let me give up 32 hours of my life every week so someone else can cover the healthcare premium. Instead, I thought, let me have the travel duplex, the healthcare triplex or duplex, the food duplex, the vodka fourplex, the entertainment duplex. Have an asset for every expense, set yourself free. I love the way you asked the question because you got it. So many people that don't watch content like this, that don't educate themselves, that don't read a lot of books or anything, they basically say, no, my boss gives me healthcare. No, your boss isn't going to cover your deductible. Your boss isn't going to cover when you hit the end of your insurance and go above. What they cover is all or part of your insurance premium for healthcare. You cover that now. Great question. Chester, would you be able to start the members only at, yes, yes, I can. 9:30. So it'll be an hour late, a half hour late. Thank you for reminding me. We did talk about that before. That's how my memory works. So it'll be a half hour late for the members only. And how the members only works is I will probably send an email to everyone in the binder course that the members only course is starting at that time. So you said 9:30 Eastern, so 6:30, so 9:30 a.m. here. Sure, I could do that. Deconstructing Dreams is listening to me on Chipmunk speed. Bradley, what is your favorite LVP floor? Is there a specific type brand you buy? So the wear layer, in most cases, I'll go down to 22 mil, but I want 30 mil whenever possible. For LVP flooring, I'm not really picky. I have a local company called the Floor Trader of Tacoma. It's a locally family-owned business. Zach owns it, worked with his company for years. I think Trevor is my sales rep there. So a local floor company, there's probably one in each market. What this company, this is my butchered version of what their business model is. It's probably way more detailed than this, and they're way better at it than I would be. But a big contractor buys a bunch of LVP for an apartment building or a complex, or they buy 90,000 square feet, and then they have the remnant of 3 or 4,000 square feet that goes to this. So it's not consistent. I don't have two rentals that have the same LVP in it. But I go in there every time I have a tenant turnover or every time I have a flooring job, and I see what they currently have in stock. And it is the best quality for pennies on the dollar. So I basically pay the same of what I would pay at Lowe's or Home Depot for flooring, except that's crap. Like I wouldn't put that in any of my places. Um, so I get top tier, high end stuff at their price. Find a local store in your market that does that. Um, so I don't have a specific one I use. I usually go and I pick what I think would look good in that area. I have specific colors I always use. I know people hate this color, but it works great for tenants because it's kind of neutral. But I have this, it's called silver, which is a type of gray, silver paint that I do everywhere. It's pretty much the color of these curtains at the place that I'm at. Um, White trim, and I use plastic exterior trim in all my places. So I've never had a scuff or a paint. I've never had to paint it. If you get something on it, you just sand it down. It's white all the way through. I like durability more than anything. If you even had a pet can chew it up, you can just sand it till it's flat again. It's white ceiling, and then the flooring. So what would look good? Like I don't usually do any kind of white LVP or black LVP. It's usually something that doesn't look like wood. Like I'll do wood if that's what's best, but yeah, it's good. I like it. Howdy. Alicia, what is the one? What is the best way to use capital that locked in a paid off property? Great. Okay, so I'll do yours first because it's kind of split up there. What is the best way to use capital that's in a paid off property? I'd steal a line from The Emperor's New Groove. That tells you how old my kids were when we started watching Disney. No touchy. I've never done a HELOC. I've never done a cash out refinance. I've never sold for a 1031. I'm probably going to be selling my first property that I ever sell next year. And not because of the money, just because I don't like the permit office in Port Orchard, Washington. Not to name anybody on purpose, but Port Orchard, Washington permit office, to be specific. Mom always said, if you don't have anything nice to say, speak clearly. I'm not a fan of touching capital. Now, does Lumberjack Landlord, Michael Zuber, Millennial Mike, they'll have portfolios much larger than mine. So maybe if you want a big portfolio, if your goal is different than mine, touching capital increases the size of your portfolio and drastically reduces your cash flow for a decade or so. Then the hockey stick growth main kicks in and you'll be richer and wealthier than I am. But that's not what I'm looking for. I don't want wealthier. I just wanted wealthy. Perpetual wealth where I can live how I wanted to without ever having to work again. So people usually start with this question when they go to touching their equity. I would redefine equity as you have the ability to add debt to an existing asset. right? That's what you can do. You're going to reduce your cash flow. You're going to lose the benefit of having the equity in the property because the cash flow or the lack of payment or whatever comes from not having the debt on there, you're going to add that. So that's the first thing you do. So most people start with this question, and I think this is the second question. The first question they ask is, how do I tap it? If it's paid off, a HELOC makes the most sense because you don't make payments on it until you use it. And as you pay it down, you can use it again. My question with a HELOC is my brother used the HELOC strategy, right? He had a paid off house, took out a HELOC, bought a property, fixed it up, rented it out, paid off the HELOC, rinse, repeat till he had 10, paid it off, 10 paid off properties, retired, totally fine. He had the skills to do the rehabs and the builds, so it was able to do it that way. And it also took him 30 years. So he didn't do it in 10, he did it in 30. He started at like 20 and retired at 50. So totally doable, but without leverage, you're adding decades to your time to do it. So I don't want paid off properties, but I don't want to add debt. When I want debt, I buy a new one with debt. That's how I access. I want to access the equity in someone else's property. So the reason I would use the HELOC is if I could absolutely guarantee that my income outside of this property could pay this HELOC off before the rate adjusts. And some people are so stupid, they go, oh, mine's fixed for 10 years. Well, then I mean, can you pay it off in 10 years? Sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's 7. But I wouldn't do a HELOC if I couldn't pay it off before the rate adjusts because interest rates can be 18% in a couple of years. No one knows. No one has that crystal ball. That could actually happen. So I don't want to be possibly stuck in that. Then if it's not a HELOC, it's a cash out refinance. 30-year fixed rate debt, 50-year if they'd let me, 1,000-year if they'd let me. I want the longest debt possible. So you take it out. Now it's fixed rate debt, maybe a better interest rate than the HELOC, maybe not. But you start paying on it immediately. So that's how people ask. Or do you sell the paid off property and do a 1031 into something else? Or do you move into the property for 2 years, get the IRS 121 rule in place so you don't pay capital gains on up to $250,000 in profit if you're single, 500,000 if you're married, right? You have all of these options to tap your equity, which means add debt to that property or sell the property. But that should be question number 2. Question number 1 should be, what's the purpose of that money? Right? In 2008, we've ran into the problem of a bunch of people could have stated income loans. Credit score didn't matter. What you made, you could lie about. Adjustable rate loans. And they took out money and bought an RV or took a vacation. Yeah, you have a housing crash then. But if you could take the money out and it is to increase your assets by buying more rentals or investing the money in something that you have confidence in your ability to get a return on, that's the first question is what's the purpose of the money? And not just I intend to buy a rental, but in your market, in the asset class that you've mastered, are you confident in your ability to actually find a deal that's going to put that money to work for you? For me, instead of all of that, I went with recycle cash flow. Minimize expenses for at least 8 years, what I did. No vacations, didn't eat out, didn't have any streaming services, didn't have cable, didn't have anything. My poor kids grew up with the Friends DVD set. Like, pretty sure they watched TV at friends' houses, that kind of thing. Like, we were just super frugal for a while so that we never have to be frugal again. And now they're going to inherit millions instead of inheriting a parent they have to take care of. But every time money came in, it was saved for the next down payment. The how do I use my equity is usually related to the question of how can I invest faster instead of how do I increase my income, decrease my expenses, and how long will it take me to save the down payment? Is it 2 years? Fine, it's 2 years. Is it a year? It's a year. Is it 5 years? It's 5 years. And I see we have a super chat. Cody doing Cody things. Strip the equity if you want to strip today's cash flow. There you go. A very viable strategy for growing a portfolio. Like growing a portfolio doesn't mean growing cash flow or attaining financial freedom sooner. As Cody learned, you can get a massive. The first time I interviewed Cody, he wasn't legally old enough to buy a beer yet, but he had 30 rentals. And he got up into the hundreds of rentals, and now he's downsizing to like 140 to right size the portfolio, to fix the debt, to fix the equity. Right, you can grow fast with it. Watch some of Coda's videos. A lot of what he says is how he wished he had focused on cash flow a little bit more. Not maybe 100%, not maybe as far on the pendulum as I am, as the super lazy guy that has never touched equity, but maybe not the stress that comes from always using the equity. Good question, though. Thank you, though. Brian, Why not diversify into stocks with that money that piles up now that you are way past FI? So for me, that's a great question too. Those are good questions today. I appreciate all of them. Um, and you might have heard me say this in some of my channels, Brian, you diversify once you're wealthy to protect your wealth. You focus on one asset class, you master it to attain wealth. I believe in me, I've chosen $5 million in net worth is when I would diversify asset types. So I'm financially free enough to walk away from the W-2 to never work again. I'm not financially free enough to put my money to work in an asset class I haven't mastered. And when I start investing in stocks, it will take a year or two of education and some dumb mistakes to get that asset class mastered. I have mastered real estate, net worth, and people calculate net worth wrong all the time. An example, I'll use myself as an example. Gross property value is a little over 7 million, debt's a little under 1.5 million. So people would say 7 million minus 1.5 million. Dion has a net worth of $5.5 million. Sounds great. It's a load of crap. The idea for net worth is if you sold everything and paid off all your debts, what would you walk away with, right? Well, if I sold everything, how much capital gains tax am I going to have? How much depreciation recapture would I have? How much would agents take for selling my properties? How much would staging cost to sell my properties? How much would concessions take for me to fix properties as inspections were done? So my net worth from 7 million minus 1.5 minus the cost of selling gives me just above $3 million in net worth. It's like 3.1 or 3.2. I don't know exactly because I don't really care. I wouldn't know net worth except I have a YouTube channel because net worth doesn't matter to me. But as it grows, once it's above five, completely after cost of selling, capital gains and depreciation recapture, and all of that is above five, I might start investing in stocks. Now, I'm not a stock guy. I even emptied out my retirement accounts in 2020, but in 2024, no, it was 2025, it was this year, when Tesla went on sale because of protests, I took 1% of my net worth. I dollar cost averaged $1,000 a day until I hit the 30,000, 1% of my net worth into uh, Tesla. Like, this is how stupid of a stock I am. I did individual stocks. You're never supposed to do that. You're supposed to diversify into a well-diversified index portfolio. Like, I'd have to educate myself on stocks. But it's up like 90% because I knew it was on sale. I will not buy more stocks. If you want to buy stocks, there's a Robinhood link down below where you can get a free stock if you use the link. But yeah, that's the answer why I haven't diversified into stocks or to crypto. And when I hit the 5 million, I'll probably put 1% into net of crypto, 1% into stocks. I'll probably dollar cost average. I'll probably diversify in stocks more than I do in crypto, depending on where Bitcoin is at the time. I will probably at the point become a super fan of Coach Nick Massey on Lead, Pray, Hodl here on YouTube if I start investing in stocks or crypto, right? But it'll take a ton of education. I'd be in the same shoes of anybody watching this right now that wants to get into real estate. I'd be absorbing content on that, and I'm not there now. So, few years. PE turned RE. Financial statement is my personal homework this week. What did you learn from yours? I learned that my net worth was way more than I thought it was when I did the personal financial statement. I've been quoting around a million for a couple of years, not paying attention to appreciation from 2020 to 2023. It was massive. And that's where debt is amazing. Debt is phenomenal. So I don't pick on my brother on purpose. He's just an easy target. He's also bigger than I am. But in 2020, we had both about $1 million in net worth. He has zero debt. He likes to sleep like a baby. He just can't stand the idea of owing the bank any money. And I love owing the bank money because it gives me asset protection, appreciation on their money, depreciation on their money, like all these benefits that he just doesn't see. Totally get it. He retired at 50. I didn't retire until 52. So he's smarter than me. He's better at this than me. I totally get it. But, however, we both had a net worth of about $1 million in 2020. Flash forward to 2024. His million without debt net worth went up about 40%. His net worth now is 1.4 million. Because of my debt, my net worth went up. It tripled. because I didn't gain value. I didn't gain appreciation on what I owned. I gained appreciation on what me and the bank owned because the bank doesn't get my appreciation. That's what I learned from my personal financial statement was really the power of leverage. I was like, wow, we were in identical situations. He now has $400,000 more. I have over $2 million more than where I was at. Like, thank you, debt. Reiterated my self-made belief that I don't want paid off properties. I paid one off. It cost me $1 million. Uh, I don't want to be over levered. I want to maintain a certain value. That was what I learned from my personal financial statement. See you, Jason, at the other event. Like I said, I won't do mine until it's late. Victor. Hey, Dion. Howdy, Victor. I know you know a lot about how to get people a CDL so they can get a good trucking job, but do you have any information on how to become a plumber electrician with no experience? Nobody hires. Well, it's weird depending on your age. The younger you are, the longer a 4-year apprenticeship seems like it would take. Like it would be a nightmare in your 20s to work 4 years. And when you get into your 40s, you realize 4 years goes by like that because it's a recognizable percentage of your life when you're young. As you're older, it's a smaller and smaller percentage of your life. So if you're going to apply to become a plumber or an electrician, there's a video on my channel called Why Your Resume Is Not Working. So search Why Your Resume Is Not Working Dion Talk, and it'll pop up. And when that's okay, I'll let you. No way, no worries. When you watch that video tells people how to design their resume to get the job. It can design your interview. It can design everything. So watch that because here's the mistake that everybody makes with a resume or when they think you're trying to get a job. You want to get a job as a plumber or an electrician or a truck driver or whatever, or a management operations. Doesn't matter the field you're trying to get into. There's the mistake that most people make. So pay attention if you're changing jobs or you want a promotion. This is what everybody gets wrong. I'm going to tell them about me. That's the stupidest thing people do. They think of a resume. What do they think? I worked here from this date to this date. I worked here from this date to this date. And everything you can put in there will eliminate you. It can only count against you. You either haven't worked in the field, so they have to train you everything, or you worked for competition and you could be a spy or you could be learning to start your own business. Everything you put in a chronological resume will count against you because you're talking about you. Do you know how stupid that is? I want you to go to a website called ONET, ONET, online.org. I will type it here. Go to that website and look up the job you're applying for. Plumber, electrician, dancer, doesn't matter. What online.org does is it's where AI is getting the filtered verbiage that it looks for to pair people up with a job. So if it says a plumber prepares tools, can read plans, can write whatever a plumber does, get into tight confined spaces, can deal with a customer, can write, all of the things that a plumber does. You've done some of that in some previous job. You've ordered parts. You've talked to a customer. You won't talk about that if you don't look up the job you're applying for. So watch that video because it's a whole breakdown of how this works. But when you go for the interview, you talk about the position you're applying for and how you fit it. When you talk about a resume, you talk about the position you're applying for and how you fit it. Your resume and your interview have nothing to do with you. I ran a nonprofit. We had over 1,200 contracts with different employers who hired from our nonprofit. It was a job placement assistance program. And that's what we learned is that every idiot that came in that wanted to talk about their degree or where they worked, we could not get them a job. But anybody who came in with an open mind and talked about where they wanted to work, the position they wanted to apply for, no matter what their past was. We had a gentleman come in. It's one of my favorite stories. Not Gunny. He goes by Moose now, but a Marine Corps buddy was working at WorkSource and he had a guy come in and the guy was like, this was his personality. I would really like to get a job in the sales industry. I understand salespeople make the most money. He talked just like that. Couldn't get him to do anything but blink during a conversation. So we sat down and we looked up jobs with sales. And you know what we found him a job doing? He's actually doing it now. He works at a mortuary in the sales department. In it's on the edge, but it's in Lakewood, Washington. And so Moose Gunny got a guy a job in sales by pairing him up with us. And we went, okay, let's not talk about your past or you. Let's talk about the position you're applying for. How would sales fit? What can you do in sales? And what did it do? It filtered him down to a job that fit him. So, my advice for somebody that wants to do a job in any job is don't talk about you. Don't be you. Look up the job itself. Look up the skills that the computers say that a person doing that job has these skills. And how many of those skills do you have? Talk about those. You'll be surprised. Most people have 80% of every job. A plumber and a surgeon do basically the same thing. These pipes are organic, these pipes are in the crawl space. But you can talk about them the same way. Every HR department that worked with my nonprofit hated our guts because we could get anybody to the interview and we could get anybody to the job. HR wanted the people who matched their criteria, and we would get them people that matched the job, making HR irrelevant. There we go. Good morning, Tim. Howdy. Are you okay? Good morning, everybody. Hope Thailand's treating you good. Thailand is treating us great. We were at the pool yesterday where the slide basically tries to break your elbow because it's not designed for people over the age of 10, probably. I don't care. Good morning to everyone, Tim. FreedomWorks, howdy. When you discover the power of the stock market, that is when you will discover wealth. I suppose I didn't start investing till 40, so I don't have decades for compound interest to do its thing. I don't like paying taxes, and even on the 4% rule, that is earned income. Stock market's great. I'm in Thailand, goofing off. I'll probably handle 1 or 2 text messages with tenants this entire month. It would take more time to look at a stock chart than it would to deal with my rental portfolio. Now, acquiring the rental portfolio that decade, way harder than investing in stocks. You 100% got me there. And if you invest in stocks, there's a channel called Joe Kuhn, Kuhn. He retired at 54 using the stock method, and he's got several awesome videos on how to do that. Not my thing. Stock market is where my money comes from. Play real estate. Nice. There you go. Good. Find the asset class that works for you, right? And also find an asset class that you're emotionally invested in, right? You're more likely to stick to a plan that you care about. There you go. Isaac Passmore. Nice. You paid off a house and lost $1 million, but how much did that cash flow help accelerating you into the next house so you could hit your cash flow goals sooner? It cost me $1 million and it cost me time. So for a year, it's like 2018 and 19, I took every penny that came in and I paid somewhere between $5,000 and $15,000 a month, like everything from my job, everything from the rentals to pay down this thing. So I paid off $121,000 in that house. Now the cash flow went from it. So the mortgage was like 1,088. And so now I'm making $500 more a month, right? Because it was at the time it was rented for like 2,500. Now it's 3,000. But so 2,500 at $1,000 mortgage set aside for repairs. I was probably making 1,500. Now it's probably making me a little over 2,000 ish. Yeah. So I was making about 2,000. So $500 more a month to be saved for the next investment. I could have taken that year, put all the money into an account. When I bought my fourplex in 2020, it was a $109,000 down payment. I could have taken that $121,000 that I paid it down and bought another fourplex. 20% down. Cash flow would have been way more than $500 increase. The absolute dumbest thing I've ever done is pay off a property. It cost me a year to pay it off. It only added $500 a month to my cash flow. And the fourplex would have added probably $500 per unit year one. Now, 5 years later, it would have been over $1,000 a unit. I'd be making $4,000 a month instead of the $2,500 a month I'm making now or so. I don't regret paying it off because I have a paid off property, financial stability that comes from a lowered lever position, the sleep well at night account. I can get a HELOC or a cash out, or I can sell in 1031. I have all these options. Like, it's not a regrettable mistake. It is mathematically the dumbest thing I've done outside of some marriages is Great question. And it's a very common one for everybody that's like, I want to pay it off house. It's more secure. It's more safe. I just demonstrated that my brother has $1 million paid off portfolio. I had $1 million net worth with leverage. My net worth tripled. His went up 40%. I would do 1,000-year mortgages because there was a study done by Freddie Mac from 1970 to 2024. 90% of net worth in real estate comes from appreciation. 10% comes from pay down. You can only pay off 100% of what you borrowed. There's no limit to how much value the property can go up. Ask every boomer who bought a property in the 90s for two goats and a taco or $40,000 that's now worth $700,000. Are they happy the $40,000 is paid off? Or are they unbelievably ecstatic that they own $700,000? 600 and something thousand of that is appreciation. Paying off a property can make sense in retirement, can give you stability. Sure, it's just never mathematically the best thing to do. Marland, plumbing is a young person's game. Yeah, unless you practice yoga 2 hours a day. I wouldn't know. I pushed it in real estate so much easier physically. Yeah. It's one of the reasons why the average truck driver now is 55 years old. The average entry-level truck driver is 55 because it's a job you could do to any age. Now, there are some hard physical. You go to Les Schwab Tires and be a tire loader, unloader. Yeah, you're going to be physical. But if you go to Dairy Gold and you're delivering pallets of milk with an electric power jack, I worked at Wilcox Farms in Washington and we had drivers in their 70s. Wish they'd learned about investing, but yeah, they can do that forever. But yeah, there's a lot of jobs that are a bit physical. If you live in Washington State, Northwest Insulation was hiring starting years ago at $30 an hour. So it's 30 something dollars an hour now to put in insulation. That is a very physical job too. Junior, congrats. Thank you. How do you and your fiance manage your portfolios differently? The same. I don't know how detailed I want to be in this because you have the knife over there. So she has rentals of her own. We have one property together where we own equity in it together. And then there's one property I co-signed with her to get her a duplex. So we have a portfolio that's hers. Then we have stuff that's mine. And then we have stuff that's commingled, I guess. I basically retired her and said, I'll cover for everything. You just travel the world with me and enjoy life. Her portfolio will continue to grow. This year she's buying. She's making money from her rental. She's buying another place this year. So she'll continue to grow her portfolio too. We don't have a joint checking or cash accounts. Don't need to. We don't hate each other enough to get the government involved in our relationship that much. People are confused because it is an open relationship. So if they see her on social media with somebody or they see me on social media with somebody else, they're like, oh, that's not, what are you doing? That's between us to worry about. This is also why I don't give relationship advice or parenting advice. Although we are very proud of our kids, we are never sure how they're going to end up. If they're not in prison or on the pole, I think we won. We don't have any kids together, but our kids have been together. So there's that. And I'll stop talking about that apparently. If dating one of my daughters won't mess you up, dating two of them will mess you up. That's their direct quote. Yeah. That's as much detail as I can give on that. Tesla is amazing. Like Cody getting engaged, you find somebody who also invests. Cody grew his portfolio by adding a spouse and not inviting me to his wedding. Yeah, yeah. Even though I did offer to come as a pirate and officiate for free. Great question. Hopefully it doesn't get me stabbed later. Go electrician. You don't even need to sweep up after yourself. There you go. Dion has probably discovered wealth. A little bit, yeah. It's probably the last few questions. Smith Family Farmstead. Howdy. We live in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, 100-year-old on 2 acres, septic well, no issues. We have 2.875 rate. We've been here 4 years. It would cash flow 300 a month. Would we try to make it a rental? Should we try to make it a rental? That's what I did. I owned a house that absolutely would have been a terrible rental. I lived in it for 10 years or so, kept it through the divorce. Then I moved into an apartment and rented out the house to get rental income on my tax returns. I lost money the first year. Sounds like you're going to be in a way better starting position than I was. And you're educating yourself, so good job. I didn't do that. I'm an idiot. Um, then, so if you owned it and you have that kind of rate, is it possible for you to, this would be a duplex tattoo, Julie, that'd be great. Um, sorry, squirrel. Smith Family Farmstead. Can you buy another place that is a house with an ADU or a duplex, triplex, or fourplex? So you can rent out the house that you're in. I'm not a fan of selling. I have still not sold a property. I'm probably going to sell my first one in 2026. I'll make videos about it, walk everybody through it. But you have a house that could bank a rental. Buying a house in your area, probably in my area, I've never seen a single family house that would make a rental unless you bought it and owned it for 10 years like I did, then it might cash flow, which is why I still own it. But if you turn this one into a rental, can you buy a house hack? All right. Low down payment, owner occupied, best interest rate. I'm not saying buy a place and rent out rooms, have shared living space. That is an option, but it's not one I've ever done. But if you buy a place that is a house with an ADU, and in my market, that doesn't mean a house with a tiny little house behind it, like a casita. It means 2 5-bedroom houses. My house with an ADU, the one property that I've got that's that way, is a 2,500 square foot house and a duplex on one property. One of them is an ADU. I don't care which one. It was done before the ADU laws were so strict, and it has to be behind the primary, smaller than this square footage, hard to permit, all that extra stuff. There are houses with ADUs that exist, and it's no different than buying a house that has a neighbor, except you get to screen the neighbor. I chose duplex, side by side, garages in the middle, no shared living walls, separate fenced yards, separate parking. Kids basically had neighbors. That's how I started on the property ladder, exactly in the position that you're in. That 2.875% interest rate is your strongest asset right now. You are gaining appreciation, principal pay down, and once it's a rental, depreciation on the total value. You are borrowing less than the rate of inflation. I would not sell that. Marlon, plumber pay used to qualify for a home. Now I have to turn down tradesmen because they can't afford to rent a single family residence. They don't make enough to be under 40% of their take home pay. Pipe fitter count. It depends on the plumbers, you know. The plumbers I know make a lot. And it depends on your area and what's happened with rents in your area. That is true. I have never checked or given a crap about income, ever. I know people making multiple 6 figures that are late on every bill. I don't care about that. I do check employment to catch them in a lie if I have the chance. I check credit score and eviction history, and that's it. I don't care what they make. I have waiters, cosmetologists, bartenders that make most of their money through tips. I think the bartender moved out. Yeah, she inherited a house. So I don't think I have a bartender anymore. Never late on rent. Kept the places nice. So I've never cared about income. Frank Sanchez, if you have a standard income, minimal standard savings and reserves, it would be doable to pay mortgage on one rental for vacancy or non-paying tenant. But how do you get over fear of having 2 to 5? Great question. And that's why I went for a duplex first, and my fourplex wasn't until my 7th year. I was 7 years in, house, duplex. 5th property was my first fourplex. I didn't scale a lot of rentals at once until I had a good base. So when you're first starting out, a couple of things increase over time. When you start investing means you start focusing on money. What are you doing to increase your income? Right? When you're just starting out and you have an average income and you have an average expenses and you can handle one mortgage, yeah, but 3 or 4 it starts to be scary, right? Well, what are you doing to increase your income? 3 to 5 years ago from now, you should be making more, but keeping your expenses as low as possible. I was house hacking, very minimal housing costs, so I can handle more of a mortgage if I had to. The first tenants tend to be where you make your mistakes. I didn't have a lease. I didn't do anything when rent was late. So late became never, right? I had all these stupid mistakes that were all my problem. But as you get tenants in place, you get better screening criteria, you get better at communicating with tenants and setting expectations and building those relationships, you realize that, yeah, 1 or 2 of your tenants might eventually not pay, but all 5 at once, especially if you have some military, some Section 8, some working or retired, and you start diversifying as your portfolio grows, and my properties aren't all close together. So like I don't want a 10 unit because I'm getting all my tenants from the same place. So if Boeing goes on strike again, because it's Tuesday, then all my tenants are hit. But if I have a duplex here, 10 miles away, a duplex here, 10 miles over there, a triplex, they're all getting tenants from different sources. So I diversified my areas, I diversified my tenant base, and then the fear of, yeah, I could have three tenants decide not to pay. I wouldn't know it. I would just have less saved for the next um, down payment. Your fear will go away as you get your systems in place, you diversify location, you diversify tenant base, you build your reserves, and you continue to grow your income, whether it's actively or side hustle, climb the corporate ladder, change jobs, right? People my age, the Gen X, we're like longevity is rewarded. People used to get pensions, so we were just programmed from birth to stay at a company long term. Millennials and Gen Z have figured out that if you change companies every 2 to 3 years, you end up making significantly more than your friends who stayed at one company for 10 years, even though they got the cool little plaque that's clear glass and it says 10 in it. You're making twice as much money. Great question. If you could start over, would you continuously house hack year after year at 5% down? This would likely make cash flow tight for the first several years. Cash flow is definitely going to be tight for the first several years. I didn't break $1,000 a month probably for 5 years. So that's totally normal. And I only house hacked once. I house hacked one $5% down payment on the duplex. After that, I did 20 or 25% down purchases, but it was 2 years. If I had house hacked, I would have went year, 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 year. Instead, I went 2 years buy, 2 years buy, 1.5 years buy, pay off a house like an idiot, then buy two in 1 year, then one the next year, and then 2 years later. So it goes faster towards the end. Yeah, I would house hack at least once, probably more because I've house hacked a total of 3 times as an investor. I did the first duplex, 7 years in, I did a fourplex. And then after retiring in 2022, I retired. In 2023, I bought a duplex on the water so I could walk down with a bucket and a rake and grab crab, could scuba dive, could walk to the ferry to go have lunch in Seattle, but not live anywhere near Seattle. I have a tenant living on the property. So when I'm in Thailand, I have notification of everything that goes on at the house. That's my travel insurance is having a tenant on my property. But 3 times total is how many times I've done it. If I started over now and I'm older, I'd probably house hack more. I'd probably focus on that more. It would go faster. And I don't have my kids now, it'd be a little easier. Uh, Frank Sanchez, if you know for sure you cannot afford 2 to 3 vacancies, do you just not scale? Build reserves. I would not scale for, I would stabilize for a year or two based on an earlier question in the chat today. I'd stabilize for a year or two, like Frank and Cynthia did. They kind of went on pause and they thought, let's get our vacancies handled, maybe sell this one off over here that kind of sucks, stabilize the units, and then get back into growth mode. So yeah, don't scale for a bit until you get your systems in place, which is reserves, cash flow, all of that. Howdy, Chris. Thank you. Great show. Thank you. Isaac. Would you consider a 20% down in an earlier purchase if cash flow is tight from being over leveraged from back-to-back continuous? That's what I did. I only did 5% down once, then I went 20, exactly like you're thinking. So it took a little bit longer. What is the Alaska cruise going to potentially cost? 2,000 to 2,500 a person, I think. And you can get super cheaper cabins, be inside with no windows. You can get more extravagant cabins if you want rear facing, full patio, whatever it is. I'm on the side. I like to have the side so that you get the landscape either on the way up or the way back. Um, I went for the flat side, not the extended side, because in your own room and on your own balcony, clothing is optional. I learned that on the last cruise. You might not want everybody staring at whoever you're with out on the veranda. So get the flat wall exterior. That's what it would cost. And you're not paying me. It has nothing. I'm not making a penny from this. This is just, I said, I'm taking a cruise, pick the dates, pick the cruise line, pick the ship. I like Norwegian. No, I did the Norwegian Bliss last time. This is like the Osprey or something. I forget the Encore. It's the Encore. So they're newer, they're bigger. They have everything. It's really nice restaurants. And I'm a fat kid, so food matters. And I just said, these are the dates. Anybody who wants to come, here's the number to call and coordinate. And I think they're trying to do like you get the same kind of area of the ship because they're like 19 stories and a seriously long walk to front to back. If you've never done a cruise before, it's a small city on water. And you don't get seasick on them like you do on smaller ships. Like you really can't tell. You don't feel the ship moving unless you're like, if you went and stood next to a wall, then you can maybe feel the wall moving. But the link to the Alaska cruise is down below. You can always call the person and say, hey, I'm thinking about taking this cruise these dates. What's it going to cost? Momo gets money. Howdy. Cash flow is always tight, regardless of when you start, unless you pay a large down payment, which defeats the point of acquiring property with minimal money down and minimal leverage, minimal levered appreciation, minimal levered depreciation. Like I want leverage in the beginning. I want stability, right? Don't over leverage yourself. Don't over, like, I didn't want to start with a fourplex right off the bat. I didn't know how to screen tenants. I didn't have the reserves for it. I couldn't have handled the mortgage all by myself for more than a couple of months. Like, yeah, there was a level of caution there, even for a crayon eating Marine. Bradley, howdy. Any property taxes and insurance tips to minimize these expenses? Here in Georgia, home owners insurance is getting ridiculous in our area due to roof claims. Shopping insurance every year. Most people, it's fire and forget. I know almost everyone that I know that isn't an investor and in the one rental at a time community doesn't even know the name of their insurance provider. Got it when they bought their house. They've lived there 7 years and they're just paying whatever their insurance is charging. They've never priced it again. I do that every year steadily. Michael Zuber talks about it in every morning update. Steadily will give you, not on the owner occupied property, but on an investment property, they will tell you different quotes, get different quotes from different types of insurance providers, a broker, different companies like Geico. Always be shopping that. ABS, always be shopping. Property taxes, you can go if you can find comps and say, look, you guys are estimating our values too high. You can go and argue it. I'm not worried about that too much. Taxes tend to be fairly consistent for us in Washington, at least. Insurance, definitely shop it. When you shop your insurance, as you own your portfolio longer and you have a higher and higher deductible, you have more ability to save a deductible, raise your deductible, you have reserves. Your premium can come down from that. As you've owned the properties longer, you have the opportunity for value add. Are there any dens or family rooms you can add a closet to? Have you been able to add a storage shed and charge a storage fee? What else can you do to increase the income from your properties over time? Tenant turnover is sometimes a better option than the binder. Like I want the binder because I don't want tenant turnover because it takes time and energy, not because of the money. Financially, the best decision is almost always kick your tenant out, fix it up, best area average rents. But then you have to live with yourself kicking a tenant out. You have to live with the time and energy it took to do that and the expense. So the binder works for me most times, but the most money comes from when there's a tenant turnover. So have you had tenant turnover? Nice. Thank you. Momo gets money. I can't wait to do my second house hack and barely started my first house hack a month ago. Nice. I just want a bigger portfolio and more leverage cash flow. When I move out, my place will be profitable. Nice. The cruise is a week. I think it's Saturday to Sunday or Sunday to Saturday. And I think we're going to wrap up there. Members only call in about 20 minutes. So if you remember, we're going to learn the skill of analyzing a deal. Have a week full of amazing. I will try to do this again next Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific. And it will last as long as the questions do. It could depend on if there's Wi-Fi where I'm at. We'll see. Ciao.